If you give me just 3 words to describe the last Duel, I would have to go with blonde Ben Affleck, blonde Ben Affleck, blonde Ben Affleck. Yes, he is a triple threat in this one. Hey, I'm Robin, I love history, but I'm bad at watching movies, so here we hang out and talk about historical film and TV. And I will explain why I had to start with Ben Affleck.
He knows you!
I actually skipped this movie at its release simply because I was still pretty scarred from Matt Damon's The Great Wall, and seeing him on another medieval poster, nah, that was enough. But don't judge the book by its cover, they say, and eventually my curiosity grew with the question, why on earth this $100 million budget movie with such names attached to it literally bombed at the box office? The base of a good story is definitely there. The prosecution of sexual violence resulting in one of the last trials by combat in medieval France. It's fascinating. Very important to note, and could be just a tiny spoiler here, the story is written in 3 different chapters, each telling the same sequence of events, but from the perspective of 3 main characters involved in the conflict, and it does work. I really like how the movie kicks off. The tease and the seriousness and the repercussions of the upcoming duel was more than enough to lure me in. But the first act, covering Jacques de Carouge's point of view, felt kind of rushed to me. They did have a lot of ground to cover there, history-wise, so looks like some sacrifices were made in the editing room. But the pacing settles in nicely when we get to the Jacques Legris perception of the events, and the rise of his character has much more depth to it. A couple of times I got taken out by an exposition dialogue which relied heavily on good acting alone, but I have an ear for it and it just bugs me when I notice it. Exposition in general is a tough cookie to sell, honestly. You have to get really creative with it. All the actors did their job wonderfully, by the way. Hands down, my favorite was de Carouge's wife Marguerite. Jodie Comer did such a heartfelt and subtle job with her character. Every look, every breath had a meaning. And I was not joking. The blonde Ben Affleck was lovely as an overlord and a common friend of our 2 rivals. He literally saved my day. It looked to me like he had the most fun on set, and even him slipping out from his general American to some made-up accent didn't bother me at all. Fake-up accent can work. Think TV show Vikings. When it comes to immersion, things got really interesting. Every time the scene was happening inside, I was fully in. The attention to detail in furniture, clothing, lighting, music, general color scheme chosen for the movie fits perfectly the period and what the movie is about. But every time the camera moved outside, something felt off to me and I cannot put the pin. What exactly? I would have to rewatch the movie again, which is not happening. So please let me know in the comments if you felt something like that, or anything at all for that matter. There is combat, but not hell of a lot of it, which is fine. The movie's goal is not to be the next Gladiator, and whenever it happens, it is actually done well, I think. It's gritty, it's raw, it's very medieval in that sense, where everything goes as a weapon, be it hilt of your sword or your gauntlet or anything you can find around you just to damage your opponent. Jousting is still better in A Knight's Tale. I also noticed that every time Matt Damon's character returned from the campaign, he was slightly changed while everybody around him were pretty much still the same. And I love that little touch. But his haircut! It took me 2 hours and 32 minutes to get used to it. Fun fact, apparently there is a cool reasoning behind the haircut. Jean de Carouge spent so much time campaigning in Normandy and Scotland that he had no other choice but to cut the sides with a knife so his head can fit his helmet. My limited research shows that in the mid-14th century a bowl haircut with a shaved neck was quite popular. And the rest kind of reminded me of the Swedish ABBA. Mullets were in use in some places, but mostly they were associated with Irish males. So Matt Damon's haircut is out of place among Norman French courtiers of the time. But I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, and just out of pure solidarity, I'm going to continue like that. Besides the crime and the punishment part of the story, I was expecting the development and later decay of the true close friendship, the pain associated with it. But the way the movie rushed the development, there was really nothing left to decay. A couple of things and you're suddenly close friends?
I know not what to say.
It's kind of hard to care after that. The horrific crime and the promise of a duel to the death is hardly enough to keep your audiences engaged for a long time. Ridley Scott blamed millennials with their mobile devices for the movie's poor performance. Okay, why don't you show them how to develop the friendship not in a digital world? Maybe they'll be curious, maybe they'll tweet about it. That's a great promotion right there. And for this particular reason, the movie left me pretty sad. That and the fact that it didn't follow A, B, C.
Always be closing.
Climaxing. in our case. Of course there is a resolution, of course there is a climax of events, but I didn't feel like there was emotional change in characters by the end of it, thus there was no emotional change in me. It's been 600 years and no one truly knows what happened back then. Maybe that's why the climax feels as it is of a fancied up documentary. Not 100% sure. But Robin, you might say. Rotten Tomatoes score is through the roof and IMDb rating is not that painful to look at. That's correct. And figuratively speaking, I'm running the risk of being burned at the stake for this type of review, but I'm still gonna say, watch this movie if you're either a die-hard Ridley Scott fan, or you love someone from the main cast, or you simply need your medieval fix. In any other case, you're better off reading the history behind it, biographies, and just using your own imagination and connecting all the dots. And of course, it's just one man's opinion. At least it's honest for what it's worth. So there you go, my take on The Last Duel. Thank you so much for sticking around. I'll see you on the next one.